All right, fellas, it's time to give our Week 5 preview and picks. Kenny had a great week last week. I did all right. Glessner, not
terrible, awful, not so great.
I was 4-0.
And Pastel, we're 0-0. There's a big difference there, Pastel.
I don't know about that.
But you can say you have not lost yet, but that is, I'm sure, going to change this week. So let's go ahead and get into it. So we have our first game of the weekend. The Seattle Dragons are heading to Houston to take on the undefeated Roughnecks. And the most intriguing part of this game to me, Gless, is the fact that BJ Daniels, I believe, is going to be in line to start. And now that Houston has an entire week to prepare for BJ Daniels, is that going to make a difference compared to the impact that Daniels was able to have on the game last weekend when he came in during the game in place of Brandon Silver? So, Gless, I know we've talked a lot about the Houston defense, how they're opportunistic. They like to put their offense in good field position where their offense capitalizes with touchdowns. Do you see BJ Daniels continuing that success, especially on the ground, or do you think the Houston defense is going to be able to adjust accordingly and really bring BJ Daniels and the Seattle offense back down to earth?
Yeah, so with how this game sets up is super interesting to me because to your point, Riley, and we've said it a couple times so far this week, is, you know, when BJ Daniels came in against St. Louis, they hadn't really prepped for that different part of the offense so far. Now with a week to go, with a week to prepare against BJ Daniels' legs with the Seattle run game, you know, how are they able to do that? Are they able to kind of stifle BJ Daniels and be able to stop him in the running? Because that's really all they need to stop. Other than that, Houston, I don't think, has a lot to worry about with the Seattle passing game. But I think what you see from Seattle, and you know, I said it last week, and the defense kept them in the game enough to where they had a chance to win at the end. They had a lot of big stops in the second half. And you've seen a couple times from Houston this year so far, and you saw it last week too, against good defenses. They don't have a lot of those big plays. So I think Seattle defensively has enough to keep them in the game. I don't think that their offense is overly effective. I think BJ Daniels is more effective than Silver's was. But I think with a week to prep, I think Houston really kind of batches down the hatch, kind of batches it down and is really able to kind of stifle the Seattle running game. So I think Houston wins. I think they win quite handily as well. But I think Seattle hangs in there for a little bit.
Pastel, what's the line for this game? Do you have that in front of you?
Yeah, as of today, it's 12.5 with the over-under at 46. So I personally think Houston does win this game, but I'm giving the Dragons a little bit more credit here. I think they're going to cover that spread. So if I'm betting this weekend, I think I put my money against the spread on Seattle to cover. And then that over-under 46, that's a tough number. But I'm going to go with the over on the assumption that they're not ready to prepare for BJ Daniels. It's going to be a high-scoring shootout.
Yeah, I think that 12 is a big number. And when there's a 12-point spread in a football game, that's an eye catcher because you don't see double-digit spreads very often unless it's like an FCS team versus an FBS team or something like that. But in college, I don't know. I'm torn with what I think. I think Houston's going to win the game. I just don't know how close it's going to be. I could see, maybe BJ Daniels providing a spark for the offense and keeping it close, but I think at the end of the day, I think Houston does what they do. They come out, they put up a lot of points, and I just don't see Seattle's offense being able to put up as many points as Houston's does at the end of the day. I just don't think their offense is explosive enough. I don't think they have the talent on offense, and I don't think BJ Daniels is enough of a playmaker to keep them solely in the game to go tit for tat against Houston. So I think Houston wins, and I think Houston covers the spread.
Ooh.
I think I'm going to say the same exact thing as I said last week. I'm not going to get cute. I'm not going to get fancy. As long as P.J. Walker is playing at this level, I'm going to stick with him. I know Cam Phillips had a quiet week, but my boy's going to bounce back. But even when he's not on, you saw last week, Holly is becoming a big factor in this offense. Kenny, I know that's your boy, but he's not even alone. Khalil Lewis, they have guys. Sammy Coates has had a quiet year so far, but they have playmakers on the outside. And they got the running game going a little bit last week. So P.J. Walker right now, he leads the league in passing yards. He leads the league by far in touchdowns. I believe in that defense. They're an opportunistic defense. They really, I mean, we all like Dallas, and that defense in the first half last week versus Landry Jones, they really put their offense in some great advantages to score, and that's what they've done all year. I mean, they've been more of a bend, don't break defense, but they've been a defense that makes plays at opportune times. They're in the right place. Their secondary especially is in the right place at the right time for deflected balls, things of that nature. And they put their offense in positions to score, and their offense is really good at scoring touchdowns. So I just don't think that Seattle has the offensive firepower to hang with the Houston Roughnecks. So I'm going to go with the Houston Roughnecks here. And I don't think it's going to be that close. I think they're going to cover that. I think BJ Daniels might have an impact early in the game and might keep them close for a while, especially if they can establish the run and kind of control the flow of the game and keep the Houston offense off the field. But I think, much like a lot of teams in the second half, I think Houston's just going to make one too many plays for the Seattle offense to overcome. So I'm going with Houston. All right, let's move on to New York versus Dallas. The Guardians, coming off of a big win, Luis Perez takes over at quarterback, gets the team a much-needed victory. They're heading to Dallas, where Landry Jones is out for a couple of weeks with another knee injury. This one's an interesting one to me, guys, and I've been flip-flopping in my head back and forth. Kenny, let's go ahead and start with you. What do you think of the Guardians going in to Dallas? Do you think Dallas with Philip Nelson can kind of bounce back and get back in the win column, or are you expecting the Luis Perez train to continue rolling on and come out of Dallas with a win?
So I have a caveat with my pick because I'm taking New York, and that is on the assumption that Luis Perez starts and plays. But at the time of this recording, there is rumors that Matt McGloin, who is participating fully in practice, is splitting first-team reps, and Gilbride might insert him as the starter.
Makes
so I'm going to say this.
No sense to me.
I agree. If Perez starts, I think they beat Dallas because I think Philip Nelson stinks, and I think that New York's defense, regardless, tears up Philip Nelson and the Renegades. I think they're absolutely going to be. I think we're going to see a carbon copy of what we saw last week against Houston's D. Multiple turnovers, but potentially a defensive touchdown. I think that secondary, that no-fly zone, has a fun field day against Dallas's quarterback. But if McGloin starts, I have very, very serious doubts that New York pulls it away. I still think if McGloin plays, that Dallas still has an opportunity to win. But if I got to make a pick, I got to make a pick. I think New York wins. I think New York wins big if Perez plays. I think New York wins barely if McGloin plays.
Interesting. This one wasn't that tough to me, but the big thing here is this going to be a very low scoring affair. Pasto, what's the line and what's the over under on this?
Yeah, so right now we've got the Dallas Renegades are favored by 8 points, and the over under is 36.5, which has to be one of the lowest over unders out there right now.
It is. So I'm going to go under there. So I'm going to take the under there. I'm going to take the Guardians to cover the +8 in that situation. But I think Dallas is going to win. I think Dallas is the better team from top to bottom. I think this game is going to be extremely low scoring because it's going to be a lot of running the football. You're going to see a lot of carries from Cameron Artis-Payne, from Lance Dunbar. You're going to see a lot of the times where the ball is in their hand. And last week, New York found kind of their success by being able to pound the rock with Darius Victor and being able to kind of make the game a little bit easier for Luis Perez. But when I look at this team, guys, I look at playmakers. I look at Donald Parham. I look at Cameron Artis-Payne. I just think that Dallas just has just a little bit too much on offense. And I think Dallas is better on defense than people think. And they really made me believers this weekend against Houston for how many times they were put in bad spots and able to kind of hold Houston to 3 points and really keep them in the ball game. So I think Dallas's defense is the star of the show. I think the running backs, ton of running backs, ton of throws out of the backfield. I think this is an extremely quick game, but I think Dallas ends up taking this one.
What do you think of Pastel? Who are you going with?
Yeah, so I kind of agree with Glass in the sense of I got Dallas straight up and I've got New York covering. I'm not touching that over-under, though. There's no way. 36.5 points. They want you to bet the over. knowing kind of some betting lines, we should bet the under, but that's just way too low. I'm going to stay away from the over-under.
It's going to be a 13-9 game, Pastel.
I get it.
13-9.
The New York Guardians offense has not been reliable by any means. And then Dallas losing Landry Jones for a couple of weeks. I mean, Philip Nelson week 1 was anything but impressive in that Dallas offense. So the line makes sense to me, honestly.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just wouldn't touch it from a financial standpoint. But I do think Dallas wins the game. I think a +8 is a little bit kind of a big spread. And I think New York covers that.
So let's go ahead and move to the Sunday games. A game that we're going to be at, the St. Louis Battlehawks visiting the DC Defenders. And Pastel, the DC Defenders are in desperate need of a victory after their very, very long road trip that did not turn out too well for them.
Yeah, I mean, they're the coldest team versus one of the hottest teams in St. Louis. They're playing this weekend, and somehow the spread's only -4 in favor of St. Louis. So, I mean, as me betting, I got St. Louis all day. -4, they're covering that. I have no trust in DC right now. I know they play better at home, but honestly, what I've seen the last 2 weeks shows no confidence in them right now to play offense or defense. Over-under right now is 39 for that game. Honestly, at this point, I probably pick the under because I don't trust the DC offense to even score points in this game. It sucks because I love DC, but right now, St. Louis, they've got this game in my opinion.
Yeah, these are two teams that are going in completely different directions. I don't even think it's really that big of that hard of a decision. I would take St. Louis. I'm picking St. Louis. I think they cover. I think they absolutely dominate DC again. I think this is the 3rd week in a row DC is going to get a pretty big beating put on them, and I hope that's not the case. I hope it's a tighter game because I like to see tighter games for the league as a whole. But I just have zero confidence that after getting outscored 64-9 in the last 2 weeks, that DC is going to hold probably, if not the best team, the second best team in the league. Hold them tight. I just don't see it. I think St. Louis pulls away and wins big.
Yeah, I really don't have much to add because I agree with you guys. I'm picking St. Louis. St. Louis to win. I think they cover. Over-under, I probably wouldn't touch that just because I'm just not sure. I'd be tempted to take that under because, again, I don't know if DC is going to score against a really good defense. And that's one thing that we've seen from St. Louis. And that's really why I think this is a bad matchup for DC. You're getting a team that runs the ball extremely well in St. Louis, and you just gave up close to 250 yards rushing against the Vipers. You have a team that's extremely solid in the secondary that gets a bunch of interceptions, opportunistic. They create turnovers, and they're just extremely fast everywhere against an offense that, has scored, total 9 points in 2 games, 1 touchdown. And last game, I mean, they can't seem to get anything going in the pass game. The run game has been non-existent pretty much all season. So in order for DC to make this a game, the offense just has to be more productive. And I just don't see that happening against the Battlehawks defense.
Yeah.
I'm guessing the line is what it is because of how the Defenders have played at home. But I think just in terms of momentum right now, I think you said it, Kenny, there's teams that are trending in 2 completely different ways. I mean, the DC Defenders have been completely different teams at Audi Field and away from Audi Field, and they're coming back home, but they're running into a team that's, to me, a team that's just improved every single week of the year. And Jordan Ta'amu right now is playing at such a high level versus a defense that, quite honestly, has to lack some confidence right now. And they just cut their leading tackler from the last game, in Matt Elam, which is not good when your safety is your leading tackler, by the way.
No.
Usually not a good sign. But, DC is reeling in all 3 phases. And we mentioned it here before that Tampa Bay was able to run the ball all over them, 2 100-yard rushers versus the Defenders. Even Cornelius got his yards on the ground. He had that long touchdown run. So what is Jordan Ta'amu going to do on the ground if Cornelius had that type of success? So as much as I was trying to convince myself we're going to see the DC Defenders home version, I still can't go against the St. Louis Battlehawks. So I'm going to get them, and I'm going to get them to cover as well on the road. I think they're going to keep on rolling with another victory and really kind of stake their claim as the #1 team in the
Beast
Eastern Division.
in the
So
East.
let's go ahead and move to the last game. And to me, this is the most intriguing matchup of the weekend. The Tampa Bay Vipers, a team coming off a much-needed first victory. They were kind of scraping their way towards that victory. You know, Houston, they played well, and then they finally had that one, I guess, over-the-hump impressive performance last weekend versus D.C. They're playing a Wildcats team that we thought got over the hump when they beat D.C., but they took a step back versus the Guardians last week. So LA's coming back home. Tampa's going on the road. Gless, let's go ahead and start with you. What are you seeing in this game, and who do you think is going to come out on top?
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of the earlier game, the earlier game of the day with DC and St. Louis. I don't know if this is the greatest matchup for LA. I thought LA was extremely vulnerable in the run game last week. They gave up a lot to the New York Guardians, and they're playing a team that, said it earlier in the segment, a team that ran the ball effectively. In my opinion, has two of the best three running backs in the entire league. An offensive line that's been, to the opinions of many, the most dominant in the league even so far, even though they only have one win. So I do think that the Vipers win this game. Pasto, can you give me a line and give me an over-under here?
It's a pretty close line, my man. They got LA -2, and the over-under is 40. So, I mean, it's almost a pick-em type of game. So,
Yeah, it's a pick-em. So I'm going to take Tampa. I'm actually going to take the over here because I do like what LA does on offense. I thought LA last week just didn't convert when they needed to. They didn't get that one big play here or there. But guys, LA's just got to get healthy. I don't at the time of this recording, I don't think that has Nelson Spruce been deemed out. Is it still questionable?
He did practice. Nelson. Yeah, he didn't practice today.
Okay. Regardless, I like Josh Johnson. I think this is going to be an extremely close game. But I'm going with the Vipers. I think they're the hotter team right now, and I really like that matchup of the Tampa Bay running game against the LA Wildcats defense.
Yeah, I think this is going to be I think this is the game of the week. I think this will be the closest game of the week. I think this will be the most competitive game of the week. LA's got some injuries that they're still dealing with. I know Nelson Spruce did not participate in practice today. Carter was limited at running back. I know Larry Rose was limited. Josh Johnson got a full day of practice in, which is the first time I've seen him get a full day of practice, according to the injury report, since he's come back from his injury. So that's good for the for the Wildcats. Trey McBride looked really great last week. Jordan Smallwood had a decent game. He was able to distribute the ball very well. But Tampa, man, we've been saying it. They're one of the most talented teams in the league. Yep. That we've been saying it. They're one of the most talented teams in the league, and they're finally getting some consistent quarterback play. I think Cornelius is only going to get better with continued reps as the number one guy. Murray looks like he's going to be back up again for the second week in a row. And then we add in Nick Truesdale. They're going to get him back. He was a full participant today in practice. That's a big get for a Vipers team that already has a pretty solid offense. And Quentin Flowers is back. I don't see him getting any reps at quarterback. I think they said they saw him playing a lot of snaps at running back this week. And Davion Smith did not participate in practice. So it looks like Jaquez Patrick is probably going to get the start this week at running back. And it looks like Quentin Flowers might be that change of pace guy. Even though he did request a trade, he did say, yes, I requested it, but I will play running back if the team asks me to. So it looks like he will probably get some.
Interesting to see what Trestman does with that situation.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to get their Swiss Army knife back at offense, and I think the Vipers, who are more healthy, and I think they're going to have more utility at offense, and I think they're going to have more consistent play on offense this week than LA is with their injuries. I think the Vipers win. I think the Vipers cover.
Yeah, I think it's a pick'em game for the most part. That's why Vegas has it at -2. I've got LA in this game because I think Josh Johnson, let's not kid ourselves, is a top 3 quarterback in this league. And I think every week that he is playing is chemistry built with the guys he's playing with. Mm-hmm. So I definitely think LA will improve every week that he is healthy. Where Tampa Bay, they're trending in the right direction. I guess I don't have full confidence in Taylor Cornelius compared to Josh Johnson. And I do think that might be the difference in this type of game. In a game that's only -2, +2, I'm going to take LA to cover that spread.
And I'm with you. I don't want to make it sound like I say Cornelius is a better quarterback than Josh Johnson. I do agree with that. I just think at the end of the day, I think Tampa's a little healthier and a little bit better talent overall than LA. Now, one thing you talk about the spread, Tampa is -2 on the road. So I think that's a bigger deal than being a -2 at home because the home team gets 3 points. So with Tampa being -2, really Vegas sees them as a 5-point favorite.
Yeah, I've been going back and forth on this one. This is by far, to me, the hardest game to pick this weekend, and it kind of goes back to what I've been saying on the last couple of shows. It's just so hard to pick teams like this. I mean, last week Tampa was impressive. The week before, LA was impressive. I mean, we've just had situations where both of these teams have looked good at times and looked really bad at times. I mean, both of these teams I believe, have seen themselves in the top 3 of our power rankings and the 8th spot in our power rankings. So which version of these teams are we going to get? It's basically a guessing game, but I really do think that the Vipers have turned a corner. And I think that the difference here is going to be that the Tampa Bay Vipers are healthier overall as a team than the LA Wildcats. I think those injuries kind of, they made a difference last week versus New York. And while I do trust the quarterback, and usually in these games I'm going to choose the team that has more reliable quarterback play, I trust Josh Johnson obviously more than I trust Taylor Cornelius, but I just like the way that the Tampa Bay Vipers are playing. I like the talent that they have on the defensive side of the ball. And I like the way that they got the running game going, and they've been doing it consistently in terms of average yards per carry, but not sticking with it. And the Wildcats gave up a lot of yards on the ground to Darius Victor last weekend. So in New York. So I'm going to go with the Vipers here. I mean, it's not even worth picking the spread. It's what you said, 2 point. Is that right? 2.5?
2 points. 2 points.
Yeah. I mean, so it's a pick 'em. So I'm going to go with the Vipers here. And I think, what is that? 3 Vipers, 1 Wildcat. So
you guys are all wrong. All wrong.
Pastel setting us up for
here we go.
Yeah, you're gonna have some bragging rights if you win this game, but I think this is by far the toughest game of the weekend.
Yeah,
I agree.
It's game of the week.
By the way, guess who's got bragging rights because who won in DraftKings last week? Right here. Let's go.
It's funny because Kenny calls himself the fortune teller because he was 3-1 last week. I believe only one person on the show has been 4-0 for a weekend, and it's not Kenny Keller. Just saying. But then Glessner won DraftKings, and I believe someone else on the show came in last place. Mr. Fortune Teller over here.
Ooh,
dude, I'm last on aggregate through 4 weeks too. Like, I just cannot pick DraftKings players. I don't know what it is. It's just not great. So I need to pull myself up by the bootstraps this week and try and pull out a top 3 to get in the money. But first 4 weeks have been pretty rough, that's for sure.
What's killing me is the Dallas running game. I feel like every week I'm picking the opposite running back. Like, I take Dunbar the week I need to take Payne, and I take Payne the week I took Payne last week. And Dunbar had had the touchdown and all the catches out of the backfield.
I had Landry Jones as my starting quarterback, and at the end of the first quarter, I was like, "Oh, this is great. He's got me negative points."
That's game over right there. So
not great.
Yeah, but we'll be putting out our DraftKings picks as well. And if you leave, while we're talking about DraftKings, might as well. If you leave your DraftKings username, you can participate. Leave it in the comments section. You can participate in the league this weekend. So make sure you do that. Check us out on the Discord app. The link for that will be in the description. If you don't know what the Discord app is, basically you can live chat with the show and other XFL fans during the course of the weekend. I mean, it's just continuing to grow and grow. The community that gets involved with it during games, and it's really a lot of fun to watch. It's, just a very positive, good atmosphere. There's not a lot of there's trash talking, but it's appropriate trash talking. Kenny does a good job of facilitating things on the Discord, and I think he's kind of forming a little cult in the Discord with the Kenny's Crew people. So
that's organic. That is organic.
Yeah, I'm sure it is, Kenny. It's getting ridiculous. People are like submitting T-shirt designs for Kenny's Crew. I mean, it's just
we're voting this weekend on
it's getting out of hand. It's getting out of hand.
So check us out on the Discord app as well. We're all on that throughout the weekend. And then, of course, you can follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and, of course, YouTube. And make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you get all of the latest content from the show. And leave your picks in the comment section. I think this week has a lot more games that could go either way. But I've said that kind of, I think last week I thought, oh, these games aren't that hard to pick. And I went 2-2. So the XFL, the only predictable thing is that it's unpredictable currently, other than a couple of teams. So leave your picks in the comment section below. It should be a fun full weekend of games, and XFL Chalk Talk is going to be here to cover it all. So stay with us at XFL Chalk Talk.
What's up, football fans? This is Coach Gless. Want to know how to listen to all of our segments on the go? You can subscribe to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, and iHeartRadio. Subscribe on your favorite podcast platform today. And don't forget to rate us and give us that 5-star review.